All right, so this part of the lab, we're going to discuss positional terms, kind of review them, what we did in lecture, and so forth. So let's begin with the terms describing the upper portion of the body. This is the superior tip, top of the skull, and the inferior position here, the base of the feet. So we might, if I asked a question, I would say the skull is blank to the big toe. And hopefully you'd respond that the skull is superior to the big toe. Let's look at this aspect where we talk about the frontal plane. We have the anterior portion and the posterior, the backside. Right? And so we might say that the sternum, this bone here, is anterior to the vertebrae along the back. Or we could just as correctly say the vertebrae are posterior to the sternum. We can also use the terms medial lateral that pair together. The medial aspect means towards the middle. Lateral means out towards the side here. Come on, buddy, let's dance. All right, out towards the side. So I would say the sternum is medial to the wrist. Or I could say the wrist is lateral to the sternum. So two other terms that are very important when we begin talking about terminology of the limbs are proximal and distal. We don't really use, at least in our class, we're not going to use superior, inferior, medial, lateral, or anything like that anymore. We're going to use terminology that describes the relative position on the limbs. And it's always going to be in reference to the point of attachment. So for the shoulder, that's the point of attachment. For the lower portion of the body, for the legs, it will of course be the hips as the point of attachment. So if I have a structure, let's say my wrist and my elbow, and I'm referring to the same limb, then I would say my wrist, right here, is distal to my elbow. Or I could just as correctly say that my elbow is proximal to my wrist. So proximal, distal, I'm going to emphasize, are used on the limbs. Now, another term or another set of circumstances that can provide a lot of issues is the description of the anatomical position. And let's just make sure that we have our little buddy here in his anatomical position. Feet are forward for the most part, hands are forward, and this is the thumb. Here we see the four fingers. This last one's the little finger right here. All right, so that's the anatomical position right now. And I just want to point this out and re-emphasize it again, that the little finger will be more medial than the thumb is. Little finger is more medial than the thumb. The thumb is more distal than the little finger. That type of terminology is always going to get a few students in class. I just want to make it as clear as possible so you don't miss it.